Hey everyone, thanks for coming. We can come a little bit closer so I don't have to yell. So I'm Eddie's sister. My name's Christy Dungan. And again, thank you guys all for coming. And somehow, some way, we've all been impacted by the judicial system in a negative way, most of us. Um, so I want to thank you for joining us here tonight. We're gathered here to remember my brother, Eddie Dungan, and those who have lost their lives in incarceration and those negatively affected by the Department of Corrections. My brother was killed by Two Rivers Correctional Institute, in spite of the fact that there is legislation and policies in place. Two Rivers Correctional Institute chose not to follow them. They locked him in a dry cell for 79 hours, although their policy states no more than 73 hours. For those of you that don't know, a dry cell is a solitary confinement with no running water, no restroom, no bed, just complete silence and nakedness. At the hands of ODOC, Eddie passed away. Since that fateful day of 1/8/2023, I have dedicated my life and my voice for the men and the women who are voiceless behind the prison wall. What I have discovered is disturbing. I just want to take a minute for anyone that would like to speak on their own personal experience. There's a lot of us here. I know all of us are here for a reason. If anyone would like to come up and say something about how you've been impacted by the prison system, the state, I'd love for you guys to come up and say something.
This last month, I was in there. My name's Kurt Wilson. I was robbed at gunpoint. I called the cops for a civil standby so I could get my belongings, and the cops showed up for a civil standby. I explained that the people are robbing me at gunpoint, and I'm trying to get my stuff off the property and leave. I don't want to get killed. Can you stay here? And the cop's like, I gotta go, and leaves. And I leave, and I'm like, my stuff's still there, but I'm not gonna stay there and get shot. And then I leave for a while, and I decide I'm just gonna go get my stuff. I don't care. Like, I've died 8 times. Good luck trying to kill me. I go back and get my stuff, and the people that robbed me call the cops and say that I went onto their property and took stuff. And this sheriff's department arrested me for burglary, and I spent from Friday almost the whole weekend in there. They didn't even process. I had to pound on the door just to try to get medical because my stump is I was in a prosthetic limb, and I'm asking for medical treatment. No medical treatment. 7 sheriffs each, and I say, hey, can I get a medical request form or something? Nothing. No treatment. Nothing. And then after all of that, they never even finished booking me, and they don't want to deal with me. They let me go. I show up on Monday. It's all gone because they realized I was the victim the whole time. They didn't even bother to do anything with the guy robbing me. They arrested the victim and then didn't even give me any kind of medical training.
So, Collins, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I had on April 15th of this year, there was a large demonstration. On April 15th, 2014, a handful of months ago, there was a large demonstration over on I-5 where a group where we had the Oregon State Troopers, where we had Eugene Police, Springfield Police. They had SWAT trucks going down the highway to target, harass, and eventually arrest over 60 activists who are all protesting the international atrocity that's happening in the Middle East. And almost all of those activists were brought into this building here Many of them had medications that were withheld to one degree or another. Um, it was made very difficult for the people going through. And I guess what I'm getting at is that like the purpose of this building is not just like they'll frame it as rehabilitation. They'll frame it as like trying to change the people, trying to like make society better and safer. But the reality is it's an institution of political repression. Their job is to take the poorest and the most frustrated people in the society and lock them up and fucking disappear us. They're to take the people who have the most to gain and the least to lose and shove them away. Um, and I think that like it's a profoundly unjust system, and I think it's our responsibility to do as much as we can to try and fight against that, to try and organize against that, so that the people inside can be heard, so the people inside have connections outside, so that they can't keep us down. Anybody else?
I have a word. So I was at Lane Behavioral Health 2 weeks ago. Refused to take my medication, and they asked me to take my medication. I said, you take my medication because I don't need it. They 8 officers pinned me down and they put 2 shots in both my arms. In Lane Behavioral Health, and the police are protecting the doctors and the psychiatrists, and the police are just protecting the wrong people, in my opinion. And they were literally 8 officers, or 8 officers. There's 4 on one side, 4 on the other, pinning me down, and 2 nurses got on either side and put 4 shots in my arm because I refused to take the medication. I'm medicated by choice, but the minute they start forcing medication on us, the minute we lose, and the police are just protecting all of them. And not only the police are they responsible, the doctors, the psychiatrists, they're all being paid by the same people, and it's unfair, it's unjust, and I'm still alive today, thank God, because I didn't have any advocates or support behind me that day. And the very officers that were sworn to protect me pinned me down, and the nurses put shots in my arm. So it's not just one system, it's the whole system. And it starts from the bottom up, and we're at the bottom right now. And they're at the top, and that's just not fair. And thank God for my life every day, because I don't know what shots they gave me that day. Maybe cyanide, maybe something that killed me, I don't know. But they thought I was dead, and they put shots in my arm. So that's my piece, and I'm very angry and very happy to stand here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Something that I learned, and I don't know why I didn't know before today, is that we are putting more money into our prison systems and building more prisons than we are into education. Literally, there is more money going into prisons than we are to teach our children. That's staggering. The United States has more people incarcerated than any other country in the world. What was it? The top most 3 populated countries in the world? We have more incarcerated. Tell me how that's okay.
The service and
Is there someone else? Is there someone else that would like to speak?
we're supposed to fall in line with this regime. This is
Heather.
the prison industrial complex.
You know, talk more about that.
Yeah. I wrote a thesis paper at the university. It was government is the 8th deadly sin. And the reason why is
here because of the police. He is paralyzed because of the police. Here in Eugene, right? Or Springfield. In Springfield. I mean, talk about the way that you're impacted your whole entire life. He's lucky to be alive, honestly. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Stand in front of us. So I was like, y'all know why there's a fence right here?
Why?
So in 2020, when COVID started, everybody knew that COVID would be so much worse in places of confinement than it would be on the streets, that people locked up without autonomy over their body or their health would turn into, an early death sentence. The medical neglect of any place of confinement would turn being locked up into an early death sentence. And people inside were frightened. They thought that they were frightened about their health and didn't know what to do about it. So they decided to go on a hunger strike and demand that the Lane County Jail, that guards would wear masks, that hand sanitizer and would be provided, that cleaning supplies would be provided, that social distancing would be accommodated. And I think that lasted like around 11 weeks. Not like a single hunger strike, but a rolling hunger strike. People would refuse food, and then other people would find out what was happening, and then they'd be put in solitary confinement or shipped out to prison after they got sentenced. But it kept happening. People kept refusing food. And there were so many solidarity demonstrations outside of the jail, like noise demonstrations of people coming out with pots and pans and megaphones and boom boxes to tell people inside that we heard them and supported them and stood with them in their struggle and in their fight. But they put up the fence to prevent people from standing up with people locked inside. And I was
During COVID?
During COVID, yeah. No, that was because of people on the outside stood in solidarity with people on the inside and engaged in that struggle. There were, yeah. I can't remember the numbers, but I think it was like COVID was like 200% more deadly in prisons in the United States than it was on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 times more deadly. So the people that went on the hunger strike, we had the phone system set up that they could call us and tell us what was happening. And as we started going through the Oregon prison system, we kept that phone line open, and the numbers kept expanding in different prisons and people going in different places. And people started calling and just describing the horrific abuses, the horrific reality of being locked up, all autonomy taken away in a place of 23 hours per day lockdown during COVID, no visiting, no yard time, and people were dying. There was nowhere to put the people that were dying because all the hospital beds were full. The people were dying in their bunk beds. People were dying in the cells that they shared with other people. And we got those stories, and people on the inside started to stand up and to fight back in different ways. There were hunger strikes that happened in Portland. There were hunger strikes that happened in Washington and other prisons in Oregon. There are also like uprisings that happen all over the country. If y'all look up this website called Perilous Chronicle, they've been doing really great work chronicling a resistance inside. But in Oregon, there were multiple uprisings in different facilities where people were watchlings and dogs and tear gas sent in to quell people's resistance to premature death. Anyways, what I wanted to say some words about is that like all of the horror that I experienced on the other side of that phone, as just a witness, the worst was always medical neglect. I got a phone call one day from a prisoner activist inside who was trying to just get people's testimony outside so that maybe some news sources would publish how people were dying in their bunk areas in a minimum facility. And they got like 9 or 10 people to call us, give us their testimony, and a piece in the Oregonian came out the next day talking about how the Oregon Department of Corrections was covering up their death numbers or covering up the awful reality of people dying inside.
And what did Department of Corrections do in response to that article? Well, they shipped everybody who testified in that article to different facilities so they couldn't communicate with each other. And the person that organized that, they put a hit out on him basically, and spread the rumor that he was a rat and locked him up with somebody in protective custody. And I got a call from him a week later that he was lying in a cell with his skull broken in 2 different places and he couldn't move and he needed medical help. And he was just laying in his bed, you know, you know, in his own blood, and nobody was doing anything about it. Just for trying to get people's voices outside of the prison wall about the horrors that they were experiencing. That's what the Department of Corrections did to him. And it took us like organizing a big bones out to finally get him to the hospital, to get him the emergency medical help that he needed. But that really laid bare the purpose and the function of the Department of Corrections and their retaliatory and punitive measures. They only exist, as our friend here said, to warehouse poor and marginalized people and to punish and to produce premature death. They exist to produce death, and that's what they've, become clear to me. And so I don't know. My love goes out to the family of Eddie. My rage goes out to the family of Eddie, and our slogan is, like free them all. I think that's the slogan that everybody should be rallying in every condition. Nobody deserves to be in a cage. No human being deserves to be in a cage. Free them all. Thank you.
Free them all. Free them all. You want to say something? I know you're a little nervous, but you were in there with Eddie. You know firsthand how awful it was.
I'm Sebastian Bivens. I was in there with Eddie at OSP before they sent him to Two Rivers. I probably spent the last 2 months with him and watched everything that he had to deal with trying to get his medication at OSP and everything else. I mean, I would wake up to hear Eddie, and me and him would talk the entire time we were in there and talk about family. I mean, we're friends from the outside. I've known Brandy since at least ninth grade in high school. Met Eddie shortly after, and we've been in prison most of his whole time that he was in there. Shortly afterwards, I got out of OSP and went to Alturas, California, where I got arrested. I mean, some of you may have seen it on the front page. Me, unconscious parrot, in a hospital bed in cuffs. I still have an ongoing case out there. They lock people in a dry cell and they leave you in there. There's broken glass on the doors that you can cut yourself with.
They do it on purpose.
They don't have any running water in the cells that they lock us into at night. We spend from at least 11:15 at night until 5 something in the morning in there with no water. That's just the way it is. I mean, there's calcium buildup on the sinks where they haven't had running water for you can say years. We get our water out the shower. Yeah, we got our drinking water out the shower. The kitchen there is unbelievable. I mean, they got ants running through it.
The stray dogs sound like they get better treatment at Uranium.
So that's true, and that's what they look at is that a dog shelter or even a stray dog gets better care than an adult in custody does.
I think we're missing the one other part. Like my whole family was military. I'm sixth generation military. My great grandfather built the Panama Canal. My stepfather was a POW, and all of them. Like James Harrison Stein drove the nuclear warhead. These people fought, died, killed. There's millions of people that are crosses on a hill.
that have already gave their lives to protect the civil liberties that are being stepped on right now.
Of course.
We're going to go ahead and do a few minutes of silence, and go ahead and light our candles. Did everyone get a candle?
No.
You didn't get a candle? Everyone-
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you, Sebastian. I just cussed out. It went out again.
All behind the sign, and we'll have to take a photo of them.
I died again. Not at all?
You need to turn around. Gordy, come over here. I'll decide. You can be outside. Gordy, over here, honey. Okay, guys. I can hold the phone. I can
I could put the phone back on the stand. Will you hold that for a second?
He's put it back.
Can I do it from back here? You want me up there?
Front of the camera.
Well, then you're gonna have to adjust it.
Okay.
So my name is Steven. I'm a former adult in custody AIC. I was released from Oregon Department of Corrections on October 1st, 2019. I got off parole on January 3rd, 2023. Ever since today I've got off parole, I have been advocating for those that are still behind the prison walls. I was invited to be part of the Justice for Eddie Dungan in July of 2023 and have been helping with the cause since then. We as a group have done peaceful protests in Eugene and to sit down in December of 23 and did Christmas cards to send to the AICs. Doing this means a lot, as there are some AICs that don't get any mail from the outside. We have also had a float in the Crestwell 4th of July parade in 2023 and 2024.
Oh.
Supporting the family and friends of Eddie Dungan, as well as all of the other people who've experienced violence from the carceral system themselves. I think one of the most important things to take away from this is that, like, if we want to make change, it doesn't come easy. And like a previous speaker had mentioned before, the changes for the conditions of the people inside during COVID and the period following, and for decades before, only comes when people actually mobilize and organize and legitimately start like putting pressure on the system and making an impact. And the power comes not from like a handful of legislators or politicians who we beg effectively enough to like give us some handouts, but it's when a lot of people go out and they bring in those around them, those who also have. So I guess this is a call to action. If this is something that you care about, we would love input. We would love participation. There's other organizations here in town. There's the Willamette Valley Abolition Project, which is engaged in really badass work supporting hunger strikers in the past. And I think like the task in front of us is to go out to as many people who've been affected by this, which is a quarter of the U.S. population has had somebody close to them get through the carceral system. If we had a quarter of the people in the U.S., that's like almost 100 million people. If you had 100 million people who gave a shit and were organized around an issue, you could shake the fucking system. And I think it's our responsibility to shake the fucking system. Carceral rates are not going down. They're going the fuck up. They're putting more and more people in these goddamn buildings every fucking day. And
Everyone needs to ask themselves, do you
And-
deserve to die?
no, absolutely not. And absolutely not. And a prison sentence shouldn't be a death sentence. You know, there shouldn't be a prison sentence in the first place. But it's our responsibility in the face of oppression, in the face of brutal exploitation, in the face of like mass incarceration. It's our responsibility to do something. Those who are apathetic in the face of oppression, take the side of the oppressor. It's our responsibility to fucking do something. We can do better. And I want to thank everybody for coming out and doing something. All of our ways that we're doing. We love input and participation as to like and ideas as to like what are the next steps. We've got some events planned for the next handful of months, and we would love more input participation. Anyway, want to thank you all for coming.
Thanks for organizing. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
We could probably put these out. I think that's the end of the thing. Unless anybody new wants to share their experience.
I seriously think everyone. Ask the question, do you deserve to die if they're that too?
Gordy,
It's just
Gordy, do you hold this? I'm gonna. Actually, no.